Why is it so important for Jews to bury our dead as opposed to cremation?
Yes, why is that?
I don't wish to cause pain for people who've had their loved ones cremated, but it's a mistake, and one you need not make again. Jewish law is unequivocal.
Which Jewish law is unequivocal? Are you talking about on the biblical level, on the Talmudic level, or are you talking about on the poskim level?
Cremation is prohibited, burial is obligatory. This is expressly commanded in the Bible, Deuteronomy 21:23, where even a person sentenced to execution receives a proper burial.
Actually, not expressly, unclear. It does mention a burial there, but if you read the verse, it's because a person was hanging on a tree and it was executed. We don't want the person to be hanging there overnight, so the Torah says that person is still able to get buried. Two things. One, it's just using the term burial because it means take off the tree, as opposed to taking off a tree and then just leave them on the ground. So the point of dignity of a person is to take the corpse off the tree, also to bury it. It would be undignified to leave it around. Second thing is that even such a person who had to be hung on a tree because of execution, we give the person dignity after death. Does it specifically have to be burial? Not necessarily.
Don't pursue cremation because you think it will be less trouble for your family. Cost is not a factor because the Jewish community will step up and pay for burial whenever a family can't afford it.
That is actually true. It's amazing what the Jewish community will do, how far they will help someone else, even if they don't know the person, even if that person is in an Orthodox community and they lived a life completely secular, no Jew left behind.
And whether or not the person was an observant Jew is irrelevant. So why is Torah law so emphatic on this issue?
Again, Torah law is not emphatic on the issue. Nowhere in the Torah does it say it has to be buried. So the Talmud, Sanhedrin 46b, discusses this at length. And it uses that one pasuk, the verse that you referred to before, and said, a person who's executed and left on a tree should not be left on the tree overnight, and they surely should be buried. The Talmud goes through why. Why is the person have to be buried? So first it says, it's just talking about generally. If you're going to take off the tree and keep dignity to the body, then don't just leave it to rot around. Now, is burial specific? Now, the verse says the double wording of you shall surely be buried. It says it twice, and that means surely. So why is it twice? So Talmud discusses that, and it says like this. Number one is we learned that the tree itself has to be buriable. In other words, when a person is hung after execution, that must be on a tree that is not attached to the ground. It must be on the gallows. The tree has to be ready to be buried, and the body has to be ready to be buried after that also. Another reason is, back then, cremation was actually something that was given as an honor. If we know Viking lore, now Viking lore obviously came much after the Talmud, but Viking lore harks back to Roman and Greek lore. And if we know about that lore, we know that cremation was actually considered an honor in some societies. When a sinful person who's executed and then their body is then burnt afterwards, it could almost seen as worship. However, if a cremation is done as a private ceremony, we don't seem to have that. Going through the Gemara step by step, the Gemara nowhere says that cremation is wrong. It talks about trying to bury the bodies. In that, it also talks about how there's no indignity to the corpse to dig it up and move it. And a matter of fact, that was a practice. They would bury bodies. When the body decomposed and was just basically bones, they would collect all the bones in a pile and put it in a sarcophagi. Then they would bury other people. And that's how they would do it because they needed a room. The Gemara says one other thing. It says that there is another place in the Torah that talks about burial, and that is the forefathers. So the Torah, the original Testament, says that Abraham bought a plot for his wife Sarah. Abraham was then buried there, then Isaac and Rivka were buried there, and then Jacob and Leah were buried there. That is a tradition. It's become what's called a minhag. Since you have that minhag, so therefore it became a tradition. And traditionally speaking, we want to be like the Avos, we want to be like the forefathers, so therefore burial is appropriate. Again, nowhere in the Gemara does it mention cremation is not allowed, nor does it say they cannot cremate.